This is Andrew Tate. If you're unfamiliar with the guy, he was briefly in 2022 the most Googled man on the planet, outpacing Kim Kardashian, Donald Trump, and others. And if you're unfamiliar with him, if this is like the first you're hearing of him, you are... God, how do I say that? I don't know that you're in for a treat. That's probably not the right term, but you're going to be blown away by some of the stuff he believes. So let me give you a little baseline information about who he is. And then we're going to talk about some of the more bizarre stuff he's had to say recently. He brands himself as a blatantly misogynist person. He claims to be a misogynist. Self-avowed, if you will. And he also calls himself the face of toxic masculinity. Now, toxic masculinity is not just the idea that, like, men are toxic or whatever. Toxic masculinity is things that are harmful to men that are societal norms, like refusing to accept your emotions and let them out in a healthy way. Instead of, say, crying, for example, you decide you bottle it all up until it all explodes and you go nuts on somebody. That is toxic masculinity, things that hurt men. He seems to have a completely different idea of what it is. But I'll tell you what, let me just show you a clip from the guy. This is from a recent debate he did in a supposed debate with feminists. Of course, none of the people he was debating were feminists. They were all, less than intelligent, I guess you could say. I'm trying not to be offensive or insulting here, but they weren't the most intelligent people on the planet. So anyway, let's listen to what he had to say here. Check this out. December 25th, 2022 is when this came out.
Men have been scared away from the idea of marriage, and that's a lot of that is the fault of this new bull law and this new feminism and this new crap. They don't give men any tactical advantage. And I'm talking about small things.
Tactical advantage? What does he mean by tactical advantage? Like, even the way that he frames things, even the way that he seems to, like, perceive the world around him is very obviously deeply misogynistic, right? Why do you need a tactical advantage in a marriage? I don't feel like I have a tactical advantage over my wife.
Small things. A man's not even allowed to be a man in his own house. You know, in England, you will get accused of emotional abuse. I can marry a woman, not lay a hand on her. I can just raise my voice at her. That's emotional abuse.
Yeah, you think? Really? Does he not know what emotional abuse is? Is this the first time he's ever heard this term before? I mean, I think he knows what it is. He just thinks that it should be used as, what was it he called it? A tactical advantage? He thinks that you should use emotional abuse as a tactical advantage against your wife.
Emotional abuse. I can raise my voice at her because she's going out drinking with dudes. She can go out drinking 6 nights a week with men. And
Who cares what she's doing? There's no reason to scream at somebody like this.
And I can say, what the fuck, you're my wife, sit down. She can call the cops, call me emotionally abusive. I get arrested now. Now there's a court case against me.
Hey, you know how you avoid that? By not screaming at your wife. That's simple. By not emotionally abusing her. It's that easy. No, he wants this as a tactical advantage. This is nuts.
Me. I have to go to court and defend myself. She'll divorce me, take my house. I have to sell my car because she's drinking vodka with...
No, because you're screaming at her. Seriously, is he not, like, connecting dots on this? This is his fault. He pushes all the bad things off onto the people around him. He blames everybody else for his bad situation. Now, he is actually facing consequences for his actions right now. But would you be surprised to find that he hasn't been arrested for emotional abuse? He's been arrested recently for human trafficking, money laundering, and something else. I don't remember exactly what it is. That's not emotional abuse, so I don't know what he's all concerned about right now anyways.
Because she's drinking vodka with God knows who.
But you notice that earlier
it's insanity.
on.
So the people in the background that started talking, like these two girls, and then there are like two more on the other side or three more on the other side or whatever, they all agree with him on almost everything, except for this girl in the corner. Apparently, this is a woman called Brittany Renner. She's an Instagrammer with like 4.5 million subbies or something like that. She's super famous, and she disagrees with him on a lot, but she almost doesn't talk at all through the entire thing. Anyways, oh my God, this is just like a crazy, unhinged, like debate, if you can even call it that. God, I got so much material from this. It's nuts. Again, this next clip should kind of draw out how he wants his woman to act, as he calls her. Listen to this.
The one of the important things for being a man, especially in a relationship, is we want to be our woman. If I have a woman and I love her, I want to be her portal to the world. I want her to experience things through me and see things through me. So for that, I need a degree of innocence and purity for her.
When he says innocence and purity, he's not talking like he wants her to be a virgin. He means he wants her to have not experienced a single thing in her life. I'm dead serious. I mean, not even riding on an airplane.
For her. If you show me a girl sitting in the corner, shy, I'm like, good, she hasn't experienced too much life. I can show her things. And also, not just show her things. This is a very important point that I get attacked by the Matrix for because they completely misunderstand me on purpose.
Okay, let's try not to misunderstand him, shall we? Let's go into this with our mind open and try to honestly, charitably interpret what he's saying here, okay?
As a man, if I'm out here struggling and leading and trying to lead my household, I also want a woman who shares my values. I want to a degree to educate my woman and show her things and for her to agree with me. Like you said earlier, Luke.
Okay, well, share my values. I was on board, absolutely. But what was that thing you just said?
I want a woman who shares my values. I want to a degree to educate my woman and show her.
He wants to educate his woman. Dude, this guy.
Things and for her to agree with me. Like you said earlier, looking for a male role model. You want to be a role model to your woman. If she's too experienced with life, it's difficult to be a role model. If she's sitting there shy and quiet, you can come along and say, no, you know what? Don't take the vaccine. Listen to me. And you can be a role model for her.
Okay, let me just lay this down for you. You know what age people usually need role models? When they start, like, looking around for role models? 10, 11, 12 years old. That's when people are looking for role models. Unless you get a partner that is that age, they've already gone through the I need a role model phase pretty much. It's just so weird, so deeply weird. For what it's worth, he basically ran a system similar to how Jeffrey Epstein ran his system, except Andrew Tate didn't, like, run a system with underage girls. It was with teenagers. It was like 18, 19 years old. That's how old he went for. There's even video footage that I just got my hands on earlier today of Andrew Tate talking about how he tries to control the people in his life and prevent them from, like, leaving, prevent them from learning too much information, and all, just completely backwards, the whole thing.
Can be a role model for her. You can't do that for a woman who knows too much, knows too many dudes, been too many places. So it's this degree of purity that we're looking for that's super important.
No, he's not looking for purity. He's looking for a complete lack of life experience. Deeply disturbing stuff, dude. Like, we're just covering clips from this supposed debate that he did between these people that weren't even, like, on the other side of the aisle anyways. We're not going outside of this. Like, if I have a ton of clips from this guy that are, you know, from like a couple years ago that are deeply disturbing. So his main complaint in life is that the Matrix, as he calls it, takes him out of context and cuts clips up and pulls them out and just gets like 3-second sound bites from like 3-hour conversations. I'm trying to provide enough context for you to these conversations that you fully understand exactly what he's talking about. Now, everything that he's said so far is deeply misogynistic, deeply wrong, and honestly isn't even out of context. Like, this is exactly what he meant in the context in which it was said. And if you doubt that, look at the entire breakdown of this whole debate on my Unfiltered channel. I did the entire 3-hour-long thing or something like that, and you can get the context. I promise I'm not pulling this stuff out of context. Let me form out the guy's views a little bit more for you. Listen to this next clip, and it should give you an idea of how he views women and how they're different from men. Well, before you listen to this, let me just say there is no difference between men and women. Fundamentally, we are all humans. For all intents and purposes, we really are not different.
Is cheating morally correct?
Yes.
Depends.
Yes.
How can you say that? Are you
You're
joking?
okay with your woman cheating on you then?
Absolutely not. That's wrong.
No, because
it's a round when she cheats on you, but you can cheat on her.
There has not been.
So he is okay. No, I'm sorry. He's not just okay with men cheating on women. He says it's a moral imperative. It is moral for men to cheat on women, but it is immoral for women to cheat on men. See the disparity there? Like, where is this dude's head? How did he get here? This is so backwards, everything about it. So a little bit later on in the conversation, I shouldn't even call it a debate. It's not. A little later on in the conversation, he comes back and touches on this cheating thing, right? I've noticed with this guy, what he tends to do is he says something, like he says what he really believes, that it's a moral good for men to cheat on women, but not for women to cheat on men. That's what he believes. And when he receives a little bit of pushback, he kind of moves back from that position a little bit more, until he backs himself into a more reasonable position. But we all know exactly what he believes because he goes to like a billion different podcasts and a billion different platforms and repeats all the same stuff. He says this over and over and over again. It's moral for men to cheat on women. It's immoral for women to cheat on men. So he can try to weasel his way out of this position as much as he wants, but we know what he believes because he says it openly. Listen to him expand upon this. It is moral for men to cheat on women thing.
Like, if a woman cheats on a man, that hurts the man at a level that it doesn't hurt the woman if the man cheats on her. It's different. It's different biologically. It's different evolutionarily. Like that.
No, it's not. Men and women are not biologically or evolutionarily different in that way. That's complete nonsense. Nobody wants to be cheated on. Like, there was a time in our history as human beings where we were largely polygamous. We all kind of had relationships with each other, but as time went on, evolution selected for monogamy among men and women, both. Now, we are not fully moved over to monogamy yet as a species. We are actually serial monogamists. So we'll go from one partner to the next, but it's only one partner at a time, usually. Sometimes you find the odd couple that is into polygamy, but that's not the societal norm right now for human beings. We are not different in the sense that men are hurt worse when they're cheated on than women. That's completely absurd. And he's trying to pretend like he knows anything about science right now to give his argument some layer of credibility. He's trying to give his argument some weight, as though he has any idea what he's talking about.
Narrowly. Like, that's what men used to fight and die over. And this is why you see these TikToks, right? You see these TikToks. Me and my man went on a break, got back together. He f***ed 20 girls, and now he's crying because I went on a date. Yes, completely yes. Because the damage level is different. It's just a different thing. So
it's not. It's not different. That just means the guy is, honestly, seemingly weaker than the other person. That's the point that's being drawn out here. Like, he's willing to cheat on this girl over and over and over again, but he can't handle it when she cheats on him. She didn't even cheat on him. She's just, like, going on a date with somebody else. Just everything about the guy's worldview is backwards and nonsensical, and he tries to back it all up with science, but he doesn't know what he's talking about, so it falls flat instantly. If that doesn't show you how he views women, if that doesn't convince you that he's misogynistic, listen to this one.
And this is another point I make, because I have a lot of men message me. I trust, guys, please understand, the most Googled man on the planet.
He is never going to let that go, is he? In July 2022, for like a week, he was more Googled than Kim Kardashian and Donald Trump. That is not the case anymore. And honestly, it wasn't even the case after that, like, week or something like that.
100,000 emails a day from people. And I get dudes email me, how do I get my woman to submit? And I can't reply to all the emails, but
how do I get my woman to submit, he says. Seriously.
If I ever read them, I'm like, bro, you're a dork. Why would she reply to you? Why would she submit to you? You're a nerd.
It's terrible. This guy is so ridiculous from top to bottom. Like, literally everything about the guy is ridiculous. It screams insecurity from the mountaintops. And he has seemingly no idea how embarrassing he is as a human being.
the truth. I'm not out here saying submit to all men. Men are the boss. I'm saying, listen, there's natural balance in the universe.
Okay, so think about what he's doing here, right? He received a little bit of pushback. His real position is women should obey men. Now, I don't know. I feel I've established that pretty well, and I'll establish that a little bit more in a second. But that's his real position, right? And he received a little bit of pushback from that in this conversation he had, and now he's backing off just a little bit. But we know what he believes. So he's going to come in and say, no, I'm not saying that. Yes, he is. He is saying exactly that. He's just trying to hedge now. He's hedging a little bit to soften the blow.
Men are the boss. I'm saying, listen, there's natural balance in the universe. When you meet a G, I've never had trouble with a woman obeying me. She just wants to. It's natural for our dynamic. Mm-hmm. If she didn't want to obey me, we wouldn't even get to the point of a relationship. If she didn't feel like she wanted to listen to me, we would have never got to where we want to get. It just doesn't work.
You know, the word obey implies like a level of authority, like you would have over a child or a dog. I mean, he's made that exact comparison for what it's worth. He compares women to children and dogs all the time, or objects. But, you know, my wife doesn't obey me. Like, I don't give her orders or any of this. We're partners. We work together to figure things out and do what we want to do. If she doesn't want me to do something, she tells me and I don't do it. If I don't want her to do something, I tell her and she doesn't do it. But I don't have control over her. She doesn't have control over me. That's not the kind of dynamic that we have. This is so deeply absurd. Just the entire worldview, top to bottom. It is deeply destructive. Like, this is misogyny, right? The idea that he should be in control of a woman, that she should obey him. Trust me, it gets even worse.
It just doesn't work. That only happens when the female's giving up sex too easy and the dude's just picking up easy and they end up in some bullshit relationship.
God, I thought I censored this stuff. I'm going to have to censor this later.
Relationship, they don't even like each other. That's dumb. That's dumb, right? But I don't have any of these problems in my life. And if you're a dude at home and you're watching this and you go, I want my woman to submit, and she doesn't, guess what? She doesn't respect you. And guess whose fault that is a lot of the time? Your fault. That is your fault as a...
She doesn't submit to you. So it's your fault because she doesn't respect you. You have to be tougher on her. Is this one of those examples where you should use that emotional abuse he's talking about at the beginning of this video? You should be using that to force her to respect you. And if she doesn't, then I guess you just split up. Is that like what he's getting at here?
That is your fault as a man.
You see this woman like cheering on this conversation. I told you, it's not even a debate. Like, a lot of the stuff that he says, they like cheerlead for him.
Yes, it is. Yes. No, it is. Yes. No.
This woman right here, this is a YouTuber called Just Pearly Things. That's the name of the channel. And she is the host of the channel. This is Pearl. And she is absolutely unhinged from reality. She is what we call a femcel. She's like a female incel. She buys into the whole ideology. She buys into all of Andrew Tate's beliefs. And it's just disturbing and weird that somebody could ever get to this point. Anyway, keep listening to this.
Yes!
It is.
Yes!
No, it is.
Yes!
No,
That's what you guys need to damn here. Tell him, please.
But it's not.
And now Andrew Tate realizes that he may be offending his core audience, which is a bunch of incels. So he's going to back off of that and criticize women instead.
Tell him, please.
But it's not about blaming men and women, because everyone has a problem. But then there's also men who are worthy of respect who women refuse to respect.
True.
Because
See, he's moving on to the women now.
Because of society.
Tell the sisters
there's two sides to it, right? But a lot of it is, if you're a capable enough man and you're brilliant enough, then the female has no choice.
If you're brilliant enough and capable enough, the female has no choice but to obey you. Seriously. He's a human trafficker, a self-avowed, self-described human trafficker. And that is what he's being charged with right now in Romania. How did he get famous? Why does anybody respect the guy? In the UK right now, the school system is running programs to deprogram children who were brainwashed by Andrew Tate, much like a cult leader. It operates exactly like a cult does. The bite model, the model that we use to determine if something is a cult or not, applies to human trafficking exactly the same way. It's the same methodology, the same everything. It all works the exact same way. The same type of manipulation, the same strategies, the same everything. Controlling people's behavior through a system of rewards and punishments, isolating them emotionally, isolating them from information, controlling their thoughts, the whole 9 yards. It's all exactly the same. Andrew Tate operates exactly the same way that a cult leader operates. He effectively is a cult leader. And British schools are attempting to deprogram children from this cult. Now, if that's not enough to convince you that the guy is deeply misogynistic, check this one out.
I like to believe that I would know very well how to make a woman happy. And I know, and whether I do that or not is a conscious decision. And that's where you get to a certain level of grandmastery where if I get a woman, I will literally decide out of 10, how happy do I want her? Does she deserve to be happy 10? Or should I keep her like crying half the time? It's very
Why? Why would he do something like that? This is the clearest example of emotional manipulation that I think I've ever seen. And he is just coming out and explaining it for you. He's coming out and telling you that he emotionally manipulates the people in his life intentionally to take advantage of them for some specific purpose. Do they deserve to be happy? I can keep them sad if I want. I can keep them crying half the time if I want.
half the time. That it's very conscious, and women don't think that way. But I'm saying if you're a cunning woman, you could be like that. You could be a bit more like, you know what? I want him infatuated with me. This guy ain't worth the time. That guy I want. And then when you're going to do that, just like the game of chess, if you play chess, it's not big moves that make you lose. It's small positional plays. It's that time you argued about your favorite car. It's the time you disagreed with him about the favorite band. It's the dumb that adds up. Whereas really, truthfully, if you're truly smart about the game, you can get him to a point after a few months where he's like, she's my soulmate. She loves everything I love. We think the same. Our hearts are connected. Boom. And then you're safe.
Everything in this guy's mind, everything, every single little action is a manipulation play. Literally everything that this guy does is viewed from the lens of, how can this benefit me? How can I control this other person and coerce them to do something that I want? This is full-blown sociopathy, in my opinion. This is absolutely nuts. There's something called undue influence. I don't know if you've heard this term before. It's a term used in courts a lot. The definition is influence by which a person is induced to act otherwise than by their own free will or without adequate attention to the consequences. Now, undue influence is used in courts to describe situations where people have been manipulated to some degree. They signed a contract, but the contract is not valid because they were unduly influenced by somebody. You know, someone gets you drunk and then lies to you about what's in the contract and convinces you to sign it. That's undue influence. You signed it under undue influence. Or you tell somebody, we're going to split the profits of this venture 50-50. And then you have them sign a contract, and under that contract it says 80-20, and they're getting the 20%. That's fraud. That's deception. That's undue influence. And cults use undue influence all the time. That's the primary issue that I have with cults. That's the thing. And that is what Andrew Tate is describing right now. That's his whole life. That's what the dude is all about. Using undue influence to manipulate, coerce, or otherwise convince people to do something that they wouldn't have done if they were fully informed in an honest way about the consequences of their actions or about the intentions that he had or whatever other thing. He's a scam artist and he's a human trafficker, and I have no idea how he got as famous as he did. Let me know what you think about him in the comments. Let me know if you want to see more stuff like this. Emily Sigmund, I love that he only has the balls to debate, quote-unquote, women who largely agree with him. And honestly, he's on edge even then. Yeah, absolutely. If you watched like my longer breakdown on my Unfiltered channel, you will have seen the manipulation tactics that he used on people and, you know, talking over them and forcing them to kind of submit to his framing of the conversation and everything is absolutely disgusting, everything about it. And people in this conversation, specifically this girl on the right here, Brittany Renner, they just, you know, they go for it. If she really wanted to force herself to kind of be treated as an equal, she could do that. And that's exactly what I would do. But he would almost certainly take it as a personal offense, a hit against his ego, and he would probably stand up and walk out, which I'd be okay with. That would look terrible on him, probably. But, you know, a lot of the time people worry that they're going to lose their opportunity to talk to him or whatever other thing, so they'll just let him railroad over top of them and control the conversation. It's just disgusting, man. Emily Sigmund, the women in this debate, quote unquote, are basically nursing him and tiptoeing around his ego because talking at all, it seems, puts him off. He constantly needs to be cared for and nursed, all while being aggressive, abusive, and in control. Absolutely. Yep. 100%. And instead of confronting him and laying into him, Brittany Renner, the girl right here on the right, is quiet and doesn't challenge him unless it's okay with him that he's challenged, and does it all on his terms. I don't blame her for that at all. What else do you do in this type of situation? If she did challenge him, then the host, this femcel right here on screen, Just Pearly Things, would trash you. I mean, I heard her during this debate trashing some of the people because they challenged him or because they challenged other people on various different things. Just sit there and talk right over them and say, I'm the host, I'm going to tell you how I feel, and then just talk them to their face for 5 straight minutes. She's terrible. I would never go on this platform. Not in a million years would I ever go on this platform. I don't care who is appearing on here because it's weighted against the people automatically in favor of Andrew Tate and this nutcase of a femcel. Anyway, just insane. Absolutely insane. You know, people like Andrew Tate, their egos are so fragile, they can't deal with any level of pushback unless they're in control of the pushback. They fall to pieces. Just like Trump, he falls to pieces when he's criticized over the littlest things. He can't stand it. They have similar personalities. They're fragile snowflakes that can't deal with dissent. It drives me nuts. It's embarrassing. It's as embarrassing as it gets.